We are in Spirit Vine Retreat Center in Brazil. We finished our February 2022 retreat, and we have some participants here that volunteer to give their testimony. So I would like to introduce each of you.
So my name is Matej. I'm 35 and I come from Slovakia. My occupation is clinic psychology and psychotherapy. I had my previous experience with ayahuasca, and it was good experience, but I was not quite satisfied with it because there were not much of guidance. I would say that it was complete chaos. But despite all that, I profited from this experience, and I wanted to extend the previous experience here in this retreat.
My name is Camille. I am from Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm a dental technician. I'm 52, and I came here to find some healing and some spirituality in my life, and that's exactly what I got.
Hi, my name is Sushil, and I'm a former software engineer, and I'm between careers right now, and it's been difficult because I've been working through a lot of my challenges in terms of depression and anxiety, and I came here looking for some answers, and maybe I came here looking for answers outside of me, but then I found answers within me after going through the retreat, and it was an incredible experience. So I thank you for that.
Hello, my name is David. I'm French, 44. I'm in between job as well. I came here because I was lost to a large extent. I still am, but I was looking for some answers as well, and I think what I found was the quieting of the questions, just the questions going away.
My name's Trent. I'm coming from Santa Cruz, California. I'm 35 years old. I came here originally to seek some healing, and I also had a lot of just deeper questions about how I act in my relationships with family, friends, partners, and I have a lot more insight on my patterns of behavior. Yeah, the first experience was very difficult for me. As many of the other participants know here, I was a bit of a wreck after the first day. And, you know, essentially during the first experience, I did experience a lot of paranoia. I started to just kind of, as I started to kind of get into the experience with ayahuasca, I noticed myself trying to take control of the situation. And my mind started kind of just running with, you know, what am I actually doing here? You know, is this some kind of cult? It felt very kind of scary, and I felt all my guards come up, and I had just a very restless night. Like I had a lot of just intense visions, and that paranoia was just amplified to the max. I never felt that kind of just amount of discomfort and restlessness. And so it took a lot to process the next day and share it out, and it was very difficult, but also healing to kind of admit that paranoia. And what really happened to me, and kind of reflecting on the situation, was I realized that this was not the only time that I've come to do something for myself and then immediately been suspicious or just not trusted the situation. I reflected on a meditation retreat that I'd been to, where I also immediately felt kind of paranoid, like, why am I here? What am I doing here? I don't trust this. With certain relationships, I realized I just didn't trust the relationship, where I always felt like I had been trapped there. And so it just started to come clear to me that this is a pattern of behavior, that I always feel like I'm on the cusp of learning some new information about myself, and I go and take a dive, and then it's a trap for myself. And so that kind of unlocked a key in me a little bit to see that what I had assumed was kind of my natural guards against things that are harmful was actually just quite a bit of fear and paranoia around exploring myself, I think, and exploring my inner depth. And I never considered myself to be a person that had trust issues, but it became quite clear to me that I was having a hard time trusting situations, trusting in myself. So it was a big revelation for me to realize I have that paranoia. And once I surrendered to that, and the next day after this kind of difficult experience, I realized that I just need to surrender to what this is and experience it fully without my preconceived notions of what this is or should be or what my expectations are. And once I really let go is when I started to have a beautiful experience, and I could actually see myself in these patterns and loops of behavior that had been causing me so much pain.
So in a way, you knew that you had this pattern of behavior because it was not the first time here.
Right.
You knew but was not completely conscious.
Right.
Because you said you've been in a retreat before and you became paranoid, or a new relationship and you became paranoid. So you made it clear here. But I remember the first day when we do the workshop, I always start with the regression to childhood. And would you like to talk what happened? Because exactly the decision you took after the traumatic situation was trust issues.
Yeah.
Remember?
I remember.
And
yeah.
this was before drinking ayahuasca.
Yes. Yeah, and that was a big revelation as well, because I'd always had a hard time remembering parts of my childhood, and I came back to a situation in my childhood that I didn't think at all was traumatic or had any trauma. But as I kind of tried to relive it and experience it, I realized that it did revolve around trust issues.
So basically you fall in the swimming pool and you almost drown.
Yeah, I'm a child. I fall in this swimming pool. Eventually, my parents come in and get me, but I didn't realize at that moment that situation for me provoked a sense of just not trusting anything, trusting in myself, trusting in outside individuals, people. I just had this paranoia with any sense of trust and being able to fully rest in someone. So.
How old you were when you fall in the swimming pool?
I'd have to ask my folks, but I think I was probably 2 or 3. Very
So
young.
we can say that since you're 3 years old, you started with trust issues,
Right.
even though you never considered that you have trust issues.
No, never.
But keep happening, no?
Yeah.
That you became paranoid, you close, and you feel that you are in danger. So, of course, during the ayahuasca will amplify this. And also, I talk about this before, what can happen when you drink ayahuasca. And I said specifically, if you are a little paranoid, you have to tell me, because ayahuasca is an amplifier, and you can become very paranoid.
Right.
But for you, was like, this is not for me. I don't have this problem.
Yeah, no, I didn't believe that I had it. I thought I was incredibly open. But then it just made me realize, that like I had been telling myself that, but underneath, I had been very nervous about coming here. I was unsure. I'd been telling people like, oh no, I got this. But underneath, I had this mistrust, and so yeah, it just forced me to get really honest with myself.
Good. So what is the definition of a bad trip? The bad trip is when you want to control, and then you start suffering. Because ayahuasca will want to show you something which will be an amplification of your own trauma, an amplification of your pattern of behavior, and most of the time it's not pleasant, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, and you don't want feeling uncomfortable, so you start fighting. I don't want to go there, I don't want to sit, no? Even though I talk about this, nothing. You go and control, but it's not only you, everybody do the same. They start trying to control and they start suffering. While if you allow whatever you are seeing, then you change the channel and you go to another place, you move, it's more organic.
Yeah. yeah, and again, like once I let my expectations go of what I really wanted to get out of the experience, because of course I think we all come here with the idea of what we want to seek, but kind of letting that go and just allowing the experience and these parts of your unconscious to rise to the surface and allowing it to happen is for me what created the most beautiful and insightful experiences.
So you brought to your awareness the problems with trust and also the control issues.
Yes.
That if something is, you cannot control it, it's dangerous.
Yes.
So now you are allowing. This is your challenge now. To
Yeah.
each time you want to control, to realize, because in that moment you will start suffering.
Exactly.
That is a sign. What is this? I
Right.
know what is this.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And David, you told me that for a long time you were looking for where I will do my ayahuasca retreat, and it was not easy to find.
No.
You were looking and checking places. So what made you decide for this place?
It's quite simple. Basically the way I search, I didn't even use Google or internet. It's kind of funny reflecting back. I didn't even think to look that there was a website for this place, because I assumed that most places were either very large center, run a little bit like a scam, with too many people, or shaman lost in the jungle that didn't really have internet. So I just assumed that it was not the right place to search. And so the way I went about it is I asked all the friends I met and knew that had done ayahuasca retreat, and all of them were telling me how profound of an experience it was, how beautiful or how challenging, and I knew this was something that could be immensely helpful for me, and it was. But a lot of them, most of them, were just recounting the experience with the plant, and that it stopped there. And there was nothing really important about the place or the facilitators. And then I talked with a new friend who told me about this place. I kept asking the question more and more, and realizing that so many people I knew had done this. And the way he talked about you, about Tio, about this place, I knew instantly that this was a process I could trust. This was the right mindset. And I've discussed that with you before as well, the importance of the messenger. And I think I would not have received the messages that you teach here, and way beyond just taking that plant medicine, but the workshop and the teaching, I would not have received those teaching in the same way from people that would be, let's say, much more shaman or guru-like, or trying to impose their view of the world. So to me, your journey, the journey of Tio, the way you've come to where you are today matters a lot. And this is how I knew that this was the right place for me, and looking back, it definitely was.
So what did you discover in this retreat about yourself?
So a few things, many things, but if I try to summarize the 5 journeys that I have with ayahuasca, we're covering all the ages of men. And so the first one was sort of a tune-in with the plant, because my mind was just not ready to welcome anything. There was too many questions, too much chaos, too much noise. I couldn't even hear the music in the room, because, and I'm not even talking when about the effects of the plant. It was just like the expectations, the stress, the questioning made it impossible to experience anything else than pretty visions and physical discomfort. That was it. The second experience was all about childhood, and it was the most magical night I've ever had, and it was all about being the child I've never allowed myself to be, because I couldn't remember being that excited ever. I don't really remember my childhood, but I don't remember being that excited about just being and life in general. And so for me, that was a big discovery, that the child I was too old, too fast, and that I needed to be more playful and reconnect with that child.
So you need to be an adult.
Yeah,
Your
so very early
childhood.
on, I just felt like I needed to be an adult to fit in the world where I was, which was constituted of adults. And then the second one was all about adulthood, or at least a vision of adulthood that I had, which was very painful, very lonely, very isolated, and it was such a difference from the previous one, even though in many respects it was exactly the same. I had just as many very pretty visual, I could have been on the same journey, but I was isolating myself and feeling like I was growing in a very just very lonely path on life to become an adult. And then the fourth one was all about adolescence, and it was extremely carefree. There was no questioning. There was no worry. There was no pain really. It was just about just having fun around the pond and being distracted every other second. And it was an extremely joyful afternoon. There was no deep insight or any incredible journey. I just had a lot of fun by the water. And then finally, the last one was more about old age, or the age of wisdom, I would say. And it was this deep sense of inner calm and presence. And for all intents and purposes, I could have been sober. It just made me more focused, and it was the end of all suffering and the end of all pain. There was absolutely nothing very spectacular going on, but in many ways it was the most profound message that I received, and I think a lot of it was because in the last two ceremonies I was able to completely clear my mind, completely welcome whatever was coming. And like I said in the introduction, I think for me the biggest insight overall is I don't need answers to all my questions, I just need less questions.
Mhm. And in both cases, it's a lot about the suffering you are creating without knowing that you are creating it.
Yeah.
So we need to discover what I am doing to create this state of pain and suffering. How can I discover this? And there are ways.
Yes, and for me, the one thing that I really appreciated and that surprised me, I knew there were workshops, I hadn't really looked into it. And to be honest, the first workshop was like, oh my God, here we go. and it was very hard for me to commit to the exercise. And when the sharing started, I understood, oh, things are getting real now. It's there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of suffering that needs to be shared in this room. And
why you were resisting the workshop?
Just because it didn't feel very rational to me. It didn't feel like I was gonna get connecting with my inner child. What the hell is this? There's I'm an adult. There's no inner child. I can visualize all sorts of things, but what sense does it make? How is that going to help me? It was I rejected the tool because I couldn't see the potency of it, and I think the plant really made me realize that I think we all in the end get the same kind of messages about presence, about playfulness, about exploring, about the connection of everything in life with nature. We just receive it in a different way. We're all shown a different picture of the same underlying reality, and we just have we need different ways to look at it. And I think the tools that you give us are they seem very basic and minimal, but they're immensely helpful when you get thrown into the chaos of a journey. You have your little map and your little tool, and so when you feel extremely lost, you can try to call on that.
So one thing is that people may think, okay, I can remember something in my childhood, but that was long time ago, so what is the purpose to go there? That is not logical. Or why I have to go to painful moments of my childhood. Now it's past, but it's not rational to think that the child we were is inside of us. It's there and it's in pain. If you had traumas in your childhood, your child is in pain because the trauma is forever. And it creates a loop, and the child with the trauma is in a loop. If you have trust issues because you were almost drowning, you are drowning and drowning and drowning, and whatever happened in your childhood is happening, and in a way that you cannot allow yourself to be childish, to enjoy. It's too serious, too adult, and when you can became the child again, you understand, because it's not about remembering what happened a long time ago, it's to be there, experience the trauma, and realize what is the decision I took in that moment being a child. See, it's not the adult remembering, it's to be the child again and to understand what is the problem of this child. So, at the beginning, don't look very rational, but it's super rational. Have a logic. And some people say, no, I didn't see anything, I don't remember anything, I don't know about my childhood. Okay, but then the same day at night you will drink ayahuasca, and probably you will appear there again. But you know after the workshop that you have resources. This is my intention, to teach you that now you are not only the child in the pain, that you have the power to rescue this child and to protect the child if he is afraid or the world is unsafe, or to give permission to this child to enjoy and be happy. Your child didn't have that, but now you can do it. So we are rescuing this child that is in the loop. And of course, it's very different, this exercise, if you didn't do it before. It's a little weird, but when you understand, it's very powerful. Because we are working with the cause of the problem, and the cause is not here anymore. It's in another time, it's in another dimension. So it's not here. We need to enter in a light trance, so we allow the information to come, instead of saying, no, this is not useful, this is not logical. Okay, remove all the no's and allow, be playful, and then the information comes, and for your surprise. And you, Matej. Okay, you are a psychologist, a psychotherapist. You said that you drank ayahuasca before.
Yes.
in Europe,
Mhm.
and was not good because there were not boundaries, there were not guidelines.
Mhm.
Although at the beginning you said, when we started the retreat, that you thought that there's too many guidelines here.
Yeah.
You didn't like at the beginning, you didn't understand why so many guidelines, boundaries. So can you talk about that a little?
So as I said, in my previous experience, there was no rules. There were people singing, playing instruments, talking to each other, and there was a moment during my ayahuasca journey when I got bothered by it and I had to leave the room. But I completely forgot about it when I was complaining about the rules here. I felt like it's gonna be for me super tough to not talk with anybody and so on, so on. So I was complaining how it's gonna work, but after all my ayahuasca journeys, I completely changed my mind. This type of work with the traumas needs really specific rules, really specific boundaries, and they are really important.
Why you need rules and boundaries?
Because in our lives there's rules or boundaries that we got to respect in our real lives. In a psychotherapy there are rules and boundaries. If they are not respected, therapy doesn't work.
Okay, what
Same as here.
happens when psychotherapists don't have a good frame of boundaries? It's very strict, no?
Yes.
In
Yes, it
psychotherapy,
is.
you have your day, your time, have to be that time, cannot be your friend, cannot be family. Well, why have to be so strict? You cannot have a personal relationship with your patient?
Because there's a difference between friend role and a psychotherapist role. Psychotherapist needs to be close to the patient, but on the other side, he got to keep the distance to be helpful. Because if he gets emotionally too involved in the patient's case, he's not helping him, and it's also dangerous for the therapist as himself.
Hmm. So the therapist may want something for the patient. It's not what the therapist wants. It's
Yeah.
the patient is the one who has to decide his or her life. It's not what the therapist wants. So we need to be neutral. But in this case, even though I am a psychologist, I don't do psychotherapy here. Our work is spiritual. The purpose of the retreat is for spiritual development. But also we need a strong boundaries and a frame. Because if not, when you became a child again and then you start behaving as a child, you need boundaries. Because when you are a child, you need boundaries to feel safe. If not, this will be chaotic and you will not feel safe here. If you can sit and relax here, is because you know nothing will do nothing crazy. Nobody will do something crazy or dangerous because it's not allowed. So, okay, I can relax. And or nobody will enter in my room, or nobody will teach me when I am under the effect of the ayahuasca. Nobody will touch me. So I feel safe, my space is safe, and the facilitators are watching this, that I can relax and nobody will touch me, or nobody will enter in my bungalow when I am sleeping. So you feel safe, okay? People will not invade you. And what can happen, ayahuasca is an amplifier. If you don't have good boundaries, that will be amplified here, and this can escalate. So from the very beginning we say, this is like this. And you have to adjust to this. If not, you cannot be here. So now, when you realize that boundaries is good for the retreat, after how much time?
Probably during the first ceremony, when I experience how it works, how it's important to have a space to think about and experience the journey, and in the end think of myself.
So you felt comfortable?
Yeah, I feel totally safe and comfortable.
Okay. What is the main thing you discovered about yourself?
Probably the main thing in general would be I found my mental strength, my powers to solve things. Sometimes in my life I felt helpless, and now I know it was my inner child, and I had the chance to heal it a little bit. But I know it's still a process, so my work needs to go on and do the rest of the work back home.
Do you think after this retreat you feel inspired to change your own practice?
Yes, definitely. Definitely I will apply the inner child technique, and now I feel after this experience, I feel free of my suppressed feelings. So I feel more empathic to my clients, and this way I can be more helpful to them.
And if you know how to use your own power, now you can teach them
Yeah,
how
sure.
can they use their own power.
Yes, correct.